All right. I'm Mookie, or Marc, if you prefer, from 88.5 FM here in Southern California. We've been hearing some new music from Washed Out on the radio as of late, and Ernest Weatherly Greene Jr. has been putting out records under the name Washed Out for damn near close to a decade, right? It's been quite
Yeah,
some time
yeah,
all of a sudden.
yeah. It's happened pretty quickly. It doesn't necessarily feel like it's been 10 years, but yeah, I'm like a veteran now. I feel like,
Yeah, it's
for better or
amazing.
for worse.
Yeah, you could take other younger artists under your wing and maybe teach them a few things at this point. Or maybe you would
Yeah, for sure.
discourage them. Maybe you would discourage them from getting into the music business. I don't know.
Probably a toss-up, depending on the day. You ask me.
If you weren't doing music, what do you think you'd be doing?
That's hard to answer. I don't think I'm particularly good at anything else. Wasn't a very good student. I was actually working at a university library. I ended up studying library science, and that was sort of my rough plan, was to work in academia and at university libraries, like try to get tenure. Um, but I was always doing music kind of on the side, pretty obsessively actually. And so luckily the music thing has panned out, but yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll go back to the library world at some point.
So you didn't study music in school. You went to University of Georgia.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I studied English literature and philosophy. So again, I didn't have too strong of an idea of, where to apply those into something, reasonable. But here I am. Yeah, I've been doing music kind of obsessively since I was probably 16 or 17. First, like more guitar based, like, garage band style with my buddies. And then around the time I went to college, I got like my first computer and started kind of playing with electronic music. And so I was spending far too much time doing that instead of actually studying throughout college. So yeah, I'm glad
sure.
it worked out.
Yeah, I tell people that I'm barely employable if it wasn't for this radio thing, because it's all I've done professionally, really. And
Sure, that's the same way I feel.
yeah, my boss said you might as well be running a Blockbuster Video, because FM radio these days is like, it's not, the biggest thing.
Well, sure. I mean, the same thing could be said about libraries. It's like obviously everything's moving online. This whole distancing thing has brought a entirely new factor into the mix. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So the new record's coming out on August 7th. It's going to be called Purple Noon. And
yep.
first of all, the album art, the cover of it is striking.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what a fantastic photo. Who came up with that concept, and where was that taken?
It was taken on a trip to Greece about a year and a half ago. My wife and I went. Um, I was already working on the album, and I was really inspired by the landscape of that area. Like the Mediterranean. The title of the album is a reference to an old film that was set and on the Italian coast. And so I already had the album title as well. I had a lot of these like visual kind of themes in my head, and it worked out where it was our 10-year anniversary. So we took this trip over to Greece. We went to a few different islands there. And the particular island where the album cover was shot is Santorini, which I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's this amazing small little town that sits on the top of this cliff, and it overlooks this beautiful like landscapes, ocean just stretches on for
Is that
miles.
sort of the iconic image that people see of Greece all the time, with
Sure.
the white
Yeah,
structures and stuff?
exactly. Yeah, and it's pretty touristy. It is like the spot in Greece. People from all over the world, whatever. But we were able to find this really nice place, and you just could not go wrong with the view. And so my wife was just shooting photos the whole time, the whole trip, really. We were shooting landscapes and just, generating like some stuff maybe for the album artwork, but didn't really have ambitions of like doing it all ourselves. But yeah, that shot was just hard to beat. Like, again, it's pretty easy when you have a sunset. Like, I mean, it's hardly doctored in Photoshop as well. Like it looked like that, you know? So yeah, probably one of the strongest sunsets I've seen in my lifetime.
Yeah.
But yeah, as soon as we saw it, we knew it was pretty special. And yeah, the rest of the artwork for the record is also made up from that same session.
I love the fact that it's not just the music that goes into putting together an album, but it's the visuals, it's the concept of the artwork and everything like that. And to be an artist, to be able to put the whole package together, has got to
Sure.
be incredibly fulfilling, you know?
Yeah, no, I feel, like you read about authors, they're doing research for a book and will travel and maybe see some of these places they're like, picturing in their mind's eye. And so definitely when I was probably halfway through the record when we took the trip, and yeah, just taking back so many of those memories and like mental pictures. A lot of ways the way I work is I'm sort of scoring this picture in my head. Um, so it's fairly easy having been there to like really fine tune that. So um, yeah, I'm a very kind of research based, my whole thing is world building, kind of it all has to be there from the start, really.
I read that. I'm going to quote you now. I found this online earlier today. Each washed out project ends up turning into an obsessive, deeply researched world building
Mhm.
exercise. Um, can you elaborate that just a little bit more? I think you basically did.
Sure. No, it's just it's much easier having a picture before starting out, because just the way my mind works is like it's very visual from the start. I think for a lot of people, it might be like lyrical themes, that they're starting from, where they're writing a heartbreak song and they're putting themselves in that protagonist place. For me, it's like more of a mood, or a landscape can be quite abstract, but just really like, Too Late, for instance, is the first single. I was really like actually picturing that Santorini sunset, and I was like, what does that sound like? Number one, then everything just sort of follows from there. So and it gets much deeper. There's all kinds of references for the graphic design that goes into the promo or the album art. There's the live show, this any number of things. It's informed by the research or whatever.
Do you feel like people can decipher things if they read between the lines a little bit, or it's so sort of esoteric that most of the stuff only you could explain?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of ways to like, open up the world a little bit more. I mean, luckily, like in the world of hypertext, internet speak, like I'm actually in the middle of like building a website, and it's still very early on. Sort of lays out some of these things, and then you can go as deep as you want to go. There's layers of text. You can click via links that
Yeah.
dive into some of the stuff that I don't have time necessarily in these short interviews to really get into.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Have you
maybe
done
I'll
many,
finish it.
and you're internet or you're tech savvy in that way where you could build your own website?
I can fake it enough, I think.
Right on.
So we'll see.
Right on. So we have heard the song "Too Late" on the radio a little bit, and you just dropped this next single, "Time to Walk Away." Two great videos, but the video for "Too Late," interesting concept. I'm sure you didn't plan on producing a video like this, but it was in
Hmm.
the early stages of COVID-19, right? And you
Sure.
asked your incredible fan base to lend you some footage that they've shot from their travels. Is that how it went down? It's a great video.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So again, the world building aspect to the record, like I had these plans to do a pretty ambitious, probably the most ambitious video I've done to date. We were going to travel over to Italy and shoot on location there. Um, and it ended up getting canceled, just like so much, as the COVID thing took off in March. And so the kind of plan B option was just reaching out to fans. I mean, we had a rough theme for the other video was going to be based around, shooting at the magic hour, shooting like as the sun's going down and the light is nice and golden. The whole video is going to be shot that way. So kind of taking that idea and running with it, we're like, what if, everyone's currently kind of locked down. What if, they look through their phones or through their hard drives and, send us, some of their favorite, sunsets or whatever. So I was blown away. I hadn't put out a song in a few years and expected maybe like 100 people, to like, or not even that really, it ended up being like, I forget the full number, but it was like 1,000 people or whatever. And so there was so much footage to work with. And
Wow.
The next step is just how to make, put it all together and have it make sense and be entertaining to watch for 4 minutes, whatever. So luckily, we found an editor and he just did an amazing job of like making weird connections between some of the clips, like, a few people shot images of like birds flying overhead and he was able to kind of like layer them sort of a collage-y way that sort of brought some sense to it. But I was, again, blown away with just the finished product there as well. Just, he did a great job and it just kind of hit these emotional points that I didn't quite expect that fell right in line with the song. And more than anything, I felt like the reception had so much to do with the fans being involved. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm seeing myself, on YouTube or whatever. Like, I think people really enjoyed that side. And
Yeah.
it's certainly like strengthened the bond. It's, I was so thankful and it turned out really special, I think.
Yeah, that's so cool. Again, we're talking about the video for Too Late and the Washed Out record's coming out on August 7th. Did you have to push back the release date because of everybody being in quarantine, or has it always been August 7th?
Yeah, originally it was going to be July. We ended up moving back mainly for some of the behind the scenes stuff, like video stuff we had going. Like, as you can imagine, any kind of production for a live video shoot is pretty complicated. So that's a pretty important piece of what I do. So moving it back a month gave us a little bit more time to get that stuff sorted.
The new song "Time to Walk Away," people could watch the video and listen to that right now. You said it was one of the first songs that you wrote for this record, and sonically, were you tinkering with some different things for that particular song, or just this entire album in general?
Yeah, I think so. My last record, Mr. Mellow, was made up of samples mainly, so it was like very collage style, very little actual recording of instruments or anything. So I knew off the bat that I wanted to kind of write the songs like at a piano in a little bit more traditional way. So that was kind of the first step. And then I actually was doing a little bit of production work for a couple of artists that were, quite a big step outside of what I normally do. So there's this one artist named Sudan Archives who she does R&B, but it's like, she has other influence as well. But she was really interested in a slightly more kind of modern pop sound. So I was kind of like using some of these synthesizers and samples that I'd never really played with very much before. For the most part, Washed Out has been very inspired by like older records, like from the 80s or the 70s. And it was really interesting kind of just right off the top, like going for like a brighter, kind of more modern sound.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun, and just a combination of like working with new sounds and just writing things like in a more traditional way. Like that was kind of it really worked well. And yeah, Time to Walk Away was like one of the first songs that I did. And like the bass sound is like from an 808, which I've never used an 808 ever. It's like quite far in my mind out of like the normal Washed Out repertoire or whatever. So, but that's really refreshing for me and gets me really excited, kind of trying newer things. And yeah, I think it
makes
turned
me
out
want to
fairly
go
well.
back and listen to the Sudan Archives. She plays the fiddle real well, right?
Yeah, she's super talented, great songwriter. yeah, there's a song. It's called Iceland Moss that I did some extra production on, and really the first kind of try at that. I've done remixing before, and a little bit of like collaborating here and there, but yeah, it's I get asked here sometimes to like produce for other artists, but I have to have like a really strong connection sonically for it to make sense, you know. And I had met her in LA once before, and it felt right. So I think it turned out pretty cool.
Where are you, by the way?
I'm in Atlanta right now in my house.
Oh, cool.
Um, and my studio is in there, but it's funny, we're rehearsing, we're getting ready to rehearse for some live sessions we're going to do here later this week, and our sound guy is in LA, but he's currently using on my computer via like a remote control app,
Yeah.
and is like basically mixing the show right now, or mixing our rehearsal to kind of get everything in the right place. But I was just blown away by the fact that he can do that from LA, from his house in LA. And we're going to do rehearsal. He's going to record the rehearsal tomorrow. So normally I would be in my studio, but it's kind of filled with gear and
So this is the
computers.
first time during, I guess, quarantine, if you will, that you're getting in a room with other people and doing some live
Exactly.
streaming.
Exactly. Yeah, I've done a little bit of DJing, like with live streaming, and my wife's a musician. She used to play in the band, and we've done a couple of recordings for like sessions that'll come out, you know, in the next weeks maybe. But yeah, it's the first time getting together with a band, and
Cool.
it's kind of fun, but also like a lot of work. You know, it's like I build these songs without thinking about performing them a lot of the time, at least. So it's a lot to work through and figure out like what we can and can't play, that sort of thing.
Sure. So what does a washed out show kind of look like? How many people in the band, and are you mainly playing the keys or something?
It changes from record to record. You know, early in my career, I had like a 5-piece band that was like a rock band, like straight up. And the material kind of suited that. Like Paracosm was a very much written with that lineup in mind. Um, where Mr. Mello was all samples, so you know there were 3 of us, and we all had these crazy sample pads, and we're just like
Wow.
queuing samples a lot. I would say this new record is a mix of those two. So currently, like, or what we plan on doing this week is 3 of us, and we're just juggling various instruments. Sometimes I'm playing bass, sometimes keys, and then we might end up adding another person for whenever we get to tour again. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a mix of like some sample stuff, and then there's quite a bit of like keyboards and guitars and stuff as well.
Uh, what have you been doing, man, while you've been in quarantine? Just and how seriously are you taking it? Are you seeing, family members? Are you taking walks around the block? Are you reading books? Are you mainly preparing to get the live set in order? You know, or have you
Sure.
been even writing music? Because a lot of artists that we talk to, even though maybe they just released a record just before like March or something. But
Sure.
they're already back to it in their home studios, and the creative juices are flowing. So how's that been working out for you,
I
staying at
look,
home?
yeah, I look forward to the day when, you know, I can start work on something new. Yeah, for the last, you know, probably 3 or 4 months, it's been just straight up planning stages for
Yeah,
everything album related, you know. So it could be music video stuff, it could be working on the live show. I have to do quite a bit of like pre-production with the live show, kind of taking all of the stuff that I recorded and kind of again figuring out what we're going to play and getting that situated. So I'm pretty much working around the clock, and it's not very fun work. It's sometimes it's fun. I mean, in a lot of ways, I do enjoy kind of moving from the music making into like design, like designing merch or designing the album artwork or whatever. That can be very fulfilling as well. But there definitely reaches a stage where you're like, I'm sick of this project. I'm ready to maybe
Yeah.
try something new. So I'm certainly there. And I also have 2 kids, young kids. And so that's made things extra difficult, as everyone who has kids, is aware of. Like, they're here all of the time. I work from home. So um, that can be both fun and challenging depending on the day.
Dude, I feel you, and no one bothers to ask or care, but it's hard, you know?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I read there
hard.
was a headline, there was an article in the New York Times a couple days ago. It was like, you either have a job or a kid, not both, like to really do it full on either one of, the sides.
Yeah. Well, we got
So
these microphones and computers, and we're doing our radio shows from home, which is amazing.
it really is. It really is.
Yeah, it makes you think, why even pay the overhead of the office space in the future when we could have all been doing radio from home anyway? It's crazy. But yeah, I'm sharing the workspace with my wife and chasing a toddler, as soon as I, get off with you. Meanwhile, I got people who I work with who are just sitting in front of the computer all day, and the business world is like moving and rotating around us while we're, doing ABCs and watching Sesame Street type of
Oh
thing.
my gosh, I know the struggle for
How
sure.
how old are your kids?
4 and 2. Um, and I mean, to some degree, we're used to it. I've always had a home studio and worked from here, so my wife and I have like our kind of routine that works pretty well. But it's just the times where, like the last couple of weeks, it's just been around the clock with my to-do list, and so it's just like I can't help out as much, which is really hard. Like, for instance, right now, I'm like, you guys have to like go outside for half an hour while I do this interview, because otherwise, like you see like the memes of like the kids popping up and like
Oh
crashing
yeah.
stuff down in the background. That totally would be going down.
Yeah, and that's
Um,
cool. We did one with Zach from the Lone Bellow, and yeah, his kids were all up in there, man. And I love it because you get to see how these artists live, their living room or their home studio, and stuff. Plus, it's easier to do something like this than route a band to the radio station with all the
oh,
gear
sure.
and everything. So it's been really fun. Have you done many of these sort of interviews?
I'm just getting started, really, since the album was announced. But yeah, so far so good. I mean, I've even got to the point with a few of them where I've like pulled out my like super high end mic, just like a phone interview or whatever. Um, so I'll record my end, and they'll be in like a studio situation with like a nice mic as well. So like, I'll just send them the file after the fact.
Cool.
So you have like pretty high quality audio. I have all of like the plugins and stuff, the compressors and such.
Yeah, that's cool. And it
So
sounds like when you get the band together for your live stream, it sounds like the sound quality is going to be pretty good, right? Because
oh
we've
yeah,
seen,
no,
and I'm sure you've seen it online. Bands are going online, and it's hit or miss.
yeah. I mean, luckily we have like a setup that makes it fairly easy. It's quite complicated, but essentially, it's our mixing desk is like just a software program. So again, I could bore you with the details, but
All
it
right.
basically makes it easy just to send audio into OBS or the streaming software without much work, really.
Yeah, incredible. How do you consume music, and are you listening to some, are you on a certain musical kick these days? Are you streaming? Are you playing vinyl at home?
Yeah, I've been doing maybe a couple times a month. I've been live streaming some DJ sets, and it's been a lot of fun. Number one, it keeps me kind of constantly trying to dig up new stuff, which is can be very informative. I've mainly been trying to only play new stuff, contemporary music, um, and also kind of normally when I'm DJing out, it's at a club or a music venue. It's very late at night. Everyone's, you know, drunk or whatever. So
Yeah.
there's this balance. I of course I try to like do this washed out thing, but I'm also like having to cater to this very raucous crowd. So it's like oftentimes I'm like playing a lot of like more up tempo stuff that I would just normally play, just to sort of serve the vibe in the room. So it's been fun. When I'm in my house, it's just me, and generally I'll play from like 8 to 9 or something, like as the sun's setting. So it's like, in the evening, but it's, most people are probably like cooking dinner or whatever. So I've had fun just playing stuff I normally would never get to play, like very like laid back stuff that makes a lot more sense, I think, with probably most people's idea of what washed out is. So I've had a lot of fun doing it.
I love that. I love the like when we're sitting down having family dinners. I love the sort of chill vibe, I guess. Meanwhile, the rest of the day, the house is pretty rocking. Listening to my own radio station and all
I
the rock
bet.
bands that we're playing. Yeah. So washedout.net is the website. People could pre-order the record, buy the merch. I think I saw. I mean, there's T-shirts and perhaps a cassette tape, if I'm not mistaken, which is certainly making a resurgence, which is funny. I don't know how I would even play that here at home. Purple Noon is coming out on August 7th. Anything else to touch on before we kind of have to wrap it up here and
No, man,
go on
it's
our
my
separate ways?
pleasure. Yeah, my pleasure chatting. Like I said, I'm just getting started with this. So,
Yeah, man. Well, so far so good, and keep up the good work, and keep your family safe, and
you too,
try
man.
not to go too crazy. We got a good relationship and back and forth with your label, and they're working really hard for you. And
Awesome.
after talking to you, I mean, I'm excited about the record, and it sounds like you're in a really good creative headspace right now, and that's
Yeah, definitely.
encouraging to see. Yeah,
Thanks,
yeah.
man. I appreciate it.
You got it, and I don't know when this is going to air, but it will air, and we'll hit you up on social media. We'll blow
Perfect.
you up on socials.
Nice.
All right, my man. Take
Awesome, dude.
care.
Take it easy, man. Peace.
All right.